Hi, welcome everyone to the Inside Story podcast, where we take you behind the scenes of building diverse businesses and becoming a successful entrepreneur. I'm your host, Dursun, a business coach and facilitator on a mission to help build impactful businesses. Today, my guest is Keith Amoss, who is a career coach and mentor based here in Luxembourg. He's also a certified neurolinguistic programming practitioner and many other. He has over 2 decades of national expertise as well as international expertise in human resource management, organizational development, project management. He has worked in the national public sector as well as at an international level as the head of talent management at NATO. Keith, it's great to have you on the Inside Story podcast. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Dursun. I really appreciate the opportunity. So great to see you, especially with the sun shining and everything looking good.
So let's start. What I will do is I will read several unfinished sentences and I would ask you to finish them for us, please.
Okay.
Great. First one, being an entrepreneur means
excitement.
Building an impactful business requires
a lot of resilience.
Failure is
going to happen.
Success is a result of
you getting it right, but you won't to start with.
And the last one, being fulfilled in life means
your personality and your values are at one with what you're doing.
That's so powerful. Thank you for that. And I think it's so important for everyone, but because I focus on entrepreneurs, I think especially for entrepreneurs to really know who they are, their values, and then build whatever business they build from that place. Because I think if you are aligned with your values and you're true to yourself, doesn't matter what you do, what difficulties you encounter in life, I think it's much easier than to have a fulfilling life, right? As you said. So thank you for pointing that out.
Unrehearsed as well, just in case anyone's wondering. No, values is to me is the key. And when people are doing something which goes against their personal values, and sometimes they don't realize actually that they're doing that. They're working in a company or organization which is against actually what they believe. So they're selling insurance policies to old ladies who don't need it, for example, and they wonder why they're unhappy in the role. So yeah, values key.
Exactly. I personally had a sales career. This was like years ago in US. I was working for this manager in a store, right? So it was a retail shop. And let's say our values didn't align. But the difficulty is at the time, I didn't know what my values were. But I had this strong inner kind of voice that was really like screaming. He wanted me to do something that was really unfair towards customers. And I just couldn't. And I couldn't. And my job was at line. I was working in US with a visa. My visa was on the line. And I just could not force myself. And all I could think was like, what would my parents think if I do this because of my upbringing? So that's something I could kind of think back and see like, oh, my parents would like think that I'm doing wrong. And there was this like, I tried first because there's so much at risk. I was like, just do it, Dursun. But then I just couldn't help myself. And then years after reflecting back, I realized one of my core values is fairness. And whenever is someone being unfair, not just toward me, but toward other people, it really bogs me down. It's something very difficult. So I think it's very important to know your values because then you know what drives you, right? Because even if you don't want, they drive you in a certain way. But at least if you are aware, then I think it will be a much easier ride.
Well, the interesting thing is if you ask somebody, what are your values? They'll come up with maybe 2 or 3 things off the top of their head. So here's a little tip. If you ask somebody what really gets you going, what gets you feeling uncomfortable, what gets you angry, what upsets you, what's something that happens, you see, you feel, you hear, that's a fantastic route into your values. Because, that was my research when I did that, was into human values and what makes people tick and what makes people do things really in life that sometimes you might not expect them to do and behave in certain ways. And certainly when you find that, let's say you've said fairness. So if somebody sees something happening which is unfair, they will automatically have a physical reaction to that. If it's a strong value, you'll feel it somewhere in your body. No, so much.
Indeed.
So, if you want to find out what your values are very quickly, think about what it is that upsets you, that gets you going, and then think of the opposite. Because if you see unfairness and you see that that's really winding you up and it's worrying you and you're staying awake at night because that wasn't right, then the opposite of unfairness is fairness. That's one of your values. And it works everywhere. It works, for example, if you see someone dropping litter on the streets and you think, why did you do that? Well, actually, what are they being? Think to yourself, what are they being? What are they doing? Well, they're being disrespectful, aren't they? So what's the opposite of disrespect? Respect. One of your values. There you go.
Indeed. Yeah. No, great. Thank you so much. This is, I think, such a nice way to start our conversation today. And I think the value should be at the core of any professional choice, any business choice. And today it's exciting because you bring, I think, two different perspectives. One perspective as being a coach for over 10 years, leaving your public sector and international service career behind to set up your own business. So you bring your personal experience, what it takes to set up your own business. But then you also, as a career coach, you guide a lot of individuals to make professional choices. So I'm looking forward to explore these two topics. So tell us, Keith, to start off, what do you do as a coach? Who do you help? And how do you help?
I've not heard this before from anybody else, but I think it actually relates. It's kind of like being the human GPS system, right? And in a sense, it's like, instead of you just plugging in, I want to go here, and it telling you where to go, it's, hang on, let's just think before that. Where do you want to go? What would that bring you? Something makes that important to you to go there. Maybe there's somewhere else you could go. And so you actually start at that point. So instead of just getting you from point A to point B, it's, where would I like to go? What would that bring me? What are my values? What's my personality like? What fits me? What are my skills, education, qualifications, etc.? And then, okay, now together we've worked on that. Now I'm absolutely sure I want to open a flower shop. That's what I want to do, right? And I'm not being discrediting anyone who would want to do that. I think it's a fabulous thing to do. If that's what you want to do, great. I would absolutely 100% support you. So now you want to open a flower shop. Okay, so how, if you see my model on my website, it's a little red bridge, a Japanese bridge. So now I'm one side of the bridge. I know who I am, what I want. I've looked over the other side. I've seen the options. Flower shop is what I want to do. Keith, can you help me? I want to start that up. I want to know how to get that going, and what sort of things do I have to think about? Helping people is interesting because there's so many impressive people out there, so many knowledgeable people, and so many people a hell of a lot braver than I am, because you do need a bit of bravery to set up any business of any sort, consultancy, and talented people. So all I can do is help them to focus and to go in that direction. One of the other things about starting your own business is that you're lonely. Most people don't start up a business 2-3 people. They start it on their own or their consultancy. So having somebody to bounce ideas off, somebody to say, I really don't know about this, and to talk it through helps. Even if that person, potentially me, doesn't know anything about the particular business you're doing, which is creating plastic ducks or flower arranging, at least you can go through the basic principles and untangle what it is that's worrying them and help them get through. So confidence building is a pretty big part of what happens when you're a career coach.
Interesting. Thank you for mentioning that part. I think confidence indeed essential. And I think that also keeps a lot of people from starting their business or pursuing whatever dreams they have. And also, feeling lonely, right? It is quite challenging endeavor to start something on your own, to build something ground up, and having at least one person to bounce off your ideas and just to get some input and just to have someone who can help you crystallize your thoughts. And I think in my work with a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, what I see is they don't know what to do, right? So they have a lot of ideas, they lack clarity and focus, which then makes them use a lot of energy and time kind of trying to chase different things, or the worst is being paralyzed with decision making, right? Because they have so many options and they overthink, and then they hit this analysis paralysis and they can't take action. And I think a coach can be someone who could really help them focus, prioritize, and then and you don't need to have an industry expertise, to your point.
Absolutely. sometimes it helps not to, because the people that are starting off on their own, let's go back to our guy or girl manufacturing rubber ducks, okay? I don't know anything about the manufacturer of rubber ducks. If they can't explain that to me in a simple way, then that's not such a good thing, is it? So it helps them to concentrate their minds, to explain in simple language what it is they want to achieve, how they want to achieve it, where they want to achieve it, who with, and so on. And if they can explain that in simple terms, that also helps, because at some point they may be having to go to the bank manager and saying, I'd like some money for this great enterprise of these yellow ducks I'm going to manufacture for the Luxembourg duck race. And they'll say, okay, can you tell me about the business? So that actually can help.
Indeed, yes. And just so our audience understands, you have quite extensive and rich backgrounds. You have worked in the public sector. There's a lot you can also learn about how the public sector works, how decisions are being made. Then got into NATO, and that must have been like totally different environment. So you have extensive experience in dealing with people. You personally had to figure out your own career path, right? How to get from point A to point B. And at some point, you decided to leave all that behind, this extensive career. Tell us what made you make that shift to start something on your own, because I think a lot of people think public sector jobs, or especially NATO or United Nations jobs, they're so well paid, secure, and yeah.
And also, again, you talk about values. It's something that really mattered. And all the people that are working there that I've known have been some fantastic people, have also shared the values of NATO as well. So that's really, really key. But most of the time I was in human resources, personnel management. If you're dealing with people in human resources, hiring, firing, developing, all the usual things, the welfare, everything that goes on in the HR world, it's a pretty thankless task. You know, most of the people think that you're part of management and you're not really helping them very much. And they're always coming to you with complaints and issues. So that said, when you're in training and development, or when you're actually helping people to get promoted, to go up in the ranks, wow, that's a whole different thing. Now people do thank you. Now people are appreciative of that leadership course or that management course, whatever it was that they went on, or that coaching that they had. So there's your ego getting massaged, right? As a human with an ego, it's nice to have people say, thanks for that, I enjoyed that, that was really good. I thought, this is what I want to do. It took me a long time, mind you. Went through all the other stuff first, still enjoyed it, but it was really at that point that I thought, this is it. This is what I would like to do. And my goodness, Dursun, after that, I was totally a pain in the what's-it, because I was whinging and moaning about, when should I leave? I'd like to do this. I'd like to set up my own thing, but when should... And towards the end, people were like, are you going to do this? Or are you just going to keep whinging and moaning and saying what you want to be doing? So it came to that crunch point where I finally, thank you very much, I've had a fabulous career, I've enjoyed it, but here we go, I'm gonna leave, and I'm gonna go out and paddle my own canoe. So it took people who were very important in my life, who were able to support me, mentors, people who had done it, people who had run their own businesses. So talk about the loneliness, it was other people that say, yeah, you can do it. But to move from 100%, although albeit international, but a 100% public sector where profit motive doesn't matter, nobody cares about that, where marketing, who cares about that? You give the message, but you don't market or sell. Into the transition where, okay, hang on, now I need a website. Now I need to get my face out there. That's bad. I don't really want to do that. It's a bit scary. Now I've got to get advisors. I've got to get tax, insurance, all these things. Yeah, it's daunting. So I would say to any entrepreneur, for goodness sake, it is possible. You can do it, but take someone with you who can help you along that rocky road. So I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I think you do need that. Like any athlete needs a coach or somebody to support them. I think when you're breaking out and starting your own business, you need someone who can help you.
Indeed. My overall impression is that some people are quite hesitant to work with a coach because they think they can figure out everything on their own, that they should figure out everything on their own. Asking for help is, I don't know, a sign of weakness, or what's wrong with me? Like, no, I don't need help. Like, I can do this on my own. People feel hesitant to, and it doesn't mean something is wrong with you or that you can't do it on your own, but it's going to take you so much longer, and maybe process is going to be much more painful as opposed to having a coach, having a mentor to support you. I think it's important, yet to your point, to have this support system.
I think a lot of people, it's particularly previously, would have thought of coaching as something you need when you're not very good. Okay, it's brought in, management brings it in because this person's not very good. They might be firing him or her, and let's bring a coach in, see if they can improve it. And that's how it was seen. Absolutely, in the last few years, completely the reverse has happened, where it's the high flyers that, they're the CEO level and they want to do their job even better, so they get a coach. So that has changed. I fear, should I get into this? I fear that we might be overdoing it now with coaching. I think that there's a kind of idea that everybody needs a coach and coaches can make everything happen. No, it starts with you as the individual, particularly as you're talking about entrepreneurs. That's the seed has to be in you first, right? So it's not going to that I'm going to get a coach, then I'm going to start a business. That's not going to work. It's like, I really want to do this. I think I want to open a shop, but I don't know what type of shop. Or I think I want to work in a totally different field, change my career, but I'm not absolutely sure. Then that's when you bring somebody in. But you've got to have that inner drive first.
Indeed, yeah. And you have to be open to be coached and to be guided through the process. You need to be open to have the awareness about who you are, your strengths, what you like, and also the desire to do something about it. Take ownership over your life, over your decisions, have the agency. And I think then the coaching relationship can also be much more successful if people are open.
Different types of situations, I suppose, what I've noticed. You have people that they weren't thinking of doing anything different. They were quite relatively happy where they were. And then there's a structural change in the organization they're working for, reorganization, which is code for we're cutting. And all of a sudden, they're mid-40s, they get a knock on the door. Thank you very much, Pierre, for all your work, but I'm going to have to let you go. Wow, that's devastating. For many, that's devastating. The first thing, and you will have seen this, the first thing is to build people back up, because it's a dreadful thing that's happened to them. They had ideas of the future, they had mortgages to pay, children to educate, everything. And all of a sudden, what now? Luxembourg's very good in terms of its safety net for most people, depending on their circumstances. But nonetheless, it's psychologically a tough blow. So that's the first thing. The great news is that is a new beginning. It is breaking open the egg, and the little chick comes out, because then they do think of different things that they could be doing, and they go back to think about, what? What I say to people is, you don't want to get to 75 years of age and look back and go, I wish I'd done that. So sometimes with people in their mid-40s that they've got the opportunity now to change, it's like, yeah, you have. You can change your career. You can stay in the same line if you want. You can still do the same things. If that's what you would like to do. But you could, even in mid-40s, even in 50s, you could change your career. It's possible. So I think it's that. I think it's that bringing in that sense of self-belief for people, building them up initially, and saying, look, if someone like me can do it, public sector, I don't know anything about anything in the private sector, you can do it. And you could, I'm sure, with everything you have, all your skills, all your qualifications, you can do it.
So maybe let's talk about that aspect. Having worked in the public sector where, as you said, you don't really market or sell your services, how was it for you then kind of to transition to now having your own business? You have to create visibility, you have to do sales, you have to build relationships, people have to know about you. So if you think in terms of setting up, especially the early days of setting up your coaching business, what were the hardest lessons you had to learn or the most difficult challenge you had to overcome as a business owner?
I think that the first thing is that change of mindset. I now have to sell myself. Now, we talked about personality briefly, didn't we? So, you've got introverts, extroverts. For some people, they will find that far more difficult to put themselves out there than for others. There's the Donald Trump types who, at any opportunity, would be able to show themselves and speak off the cuff, and no problem. By the way, we won't get political in this podcast. And there's the other types who it's tough. It's tough to do that. It's tough to network. It's tough to sell yourself. It's tough to get the connections. So I would be very surprised. I would genuinely be very surprised if entrepreneurs at their very early days aren't nervous and a little bit scared about what they're doing, particularly if they have left something, which was I turn up at work, I do my 9 to 5, I get regular salary, I have annual leave, it's all taken care of, to be then responsible for doing every flipping thing, and I mean it, literally everything. So there is a bit of fear for sure. So that was a major challenge when you first get into that. One thing you have to do, you have to network, you have to build people around you. But there's a brilliant phrase which I really like, which is that you need to build trust. You know that not everybody's going to like you for whatever reason. Sometimes jealousy, sometimes they just don't like you.
Yeah.
That's life. But you have to build trust. So you have to have integrity. You have to network. And when you've done that, trust comes in on a donkey, but can leave on a racehorse.
That's
So
so true.
once you break that, especially in Luxembourg, small world, once something like that gets broken, you've had it. So for any entrepreneur, remember how important that is.
Indeed. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with that more. It's very difficult to be an entrepreneur, especially if your business is your services. It's very difficult not to take it personal, right? It's very difficult because everything is kind of built on trust. My approach is I give some baseline of trust to everyone, even if I haven't met this person before, and then I leave it up to them. Do they live up to that? If yes, then the trust goes up. If not, then I take back the trust.
Absolutely. And you wouldn't go to your general practitioner and tell the doctor about all your issues and then expect them to be down the pub talking to everybody about it.
Indeed.
That's just ridiculous. You wouldn't expect it. Well, entrepreneurs, you need to act like that. The same in keeping integrity, keeping to your word. If you say you're going to be at a meeting at 10 o'clock, you be at the meeting at 10 o'clock. If you say you're going to provide something, provide it. Because
Indeed.
honestly, it's not worth it. Even though it may be a pain or whatever, I won't return that phone call. If you get into that habit, your reputation goes down. End of. So keep your word, show integrity, and it will be. As I say, it comes in a donkey. It doesn't come easy, but you've got it. So I think that's a really key point, and I like what you said about that. I think it's important.
Indeed, yeah. Thank you so much for this, Keith. And maybe going back to the coaching, I'm assuming some of our listeners currently have jobs, and they might be in this stage where they're thinking, is this all there is? Everything seems fine, but I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled, or something is missing. Or maybe they have other reasons and they are entertaining the idea of maybe starting something on their own. If they were to come to you to seek your coaching, let's say, how would you advise them to build a niche, focus on very few things, prioritize, and then make peace with that without the fear of missing out?
Oh, FOMO, big one. I mean, the first thing is go back to the person, the individual. It's all about them, and asking the questions as to what it is. What's going on in your life that's making you unhappy with where you are? It's not always the case. Let's be absolutely fair and honest about this. People have that feeling they want to leave. When you get down to the roots of it, the reason they want to leave and start their own business is not anything other when you dig into it than actually they don't get on with their boss and they're having a torrid time with their boss, or they don't see an opportunity within their organization to grow. Actually, with some sort of careful tweaking, it can change. Things can change and they can stay where they are and maybe get promoted, maybe move into a different area and be really happy again. Who's really happy at work? Not many people. It's fulfillment you're after. It's not passion and happiness. It's fulfillment. Be fulfilled at the end of your day. It was a good end of the week. That was a good week. I did something useful. So yeah, the way I would tackle it is certainly that, is look at what it is that you like. But it's really interesting what you say, because that's a fatal flaw that a lot of people make. They're good at something and therefore they believe that that's what they ought to be doing. And they've told that from family, from those around them, even teachers at a very young age. You're good at maths, you're good at figures, you should do something like that. Do accountancy. So they do accountancy. And 20 years later, after they've been doing accountancy in a place they absolutely hate and they don't like dealing with figures and computers and numbers, they finally get back to thinking, I never really wanted to do this. I wanted to do something completely different than this. The eureka moment. So it's finding that is the first thing. in short terms, it's really focusing at the initial stage on the individual and finding what it is. I won't use the word passion because it's nonsense. Passion is good for a short period of time, but like in real life, it doesn't actually necessarily last forever, but fulfillment definitely can.
I think it's a bit difficult maybe. There's a lot more fuss around passion, right? Especially when it comes to building a business. Follow your passion. When it comes to building a career or picking a job, follow your passion, right? But how do you follow fulfillment? Like, how do you know what
When you're
fulfills
fulfilled,
you?
because you look back and you say, what have I done in the past? When at the end of that, when I did that, when I met with a group of people, when I worked in a team, when I created something, when I was on this project, when I built something, my hobby is, and when I do that. So you can find that. You can find what that is, what that fulfillment is, because everybody has something. And yeah, of course, it can be close to your passion. But all I'm saying is that don't go straight for that, because my passion might be to be centre forward for the England football team, right? It's not going to happen, Keith. Both feet on the ground. Not going to happen. Not now, anyway. And it certainly wouldn't have happened before. But nonetheless, you understand what I'm saying. Some people have passions for things which were they to make that their job, that's not going to do it for them, really. And it's always great to have something as well, aside from your job, that you enjoy doing. Then why not a passion to do something outside of your job? But that may not be your job. It can be. Can be. I mean, I'm very lucky. I have cousins, one who always loved animals, wanted to work with animals. She's a veterinarian. Another one who liked landscape. She's a landscape gardener. So it can happen, but it's more rare.
And maybe one other thing related to passion. There is this Venn diagram that I'm imagining in my head. Like some call it ikigai, but some call it purpose diagram, right? So it has these 3 intersecting circles. And if I remember from on top of my head, one of the things is, yes, something that you're good at, maybe something you're passionate about, right? But then it has to also match with what the world needs.
And what will make
what
you money.
can exactly what you can get paid for. If your passion can make you money, then okay, great. And also then if it's something that the world needs, I think that's the part maybe that kind of brings you the fulfillment, knowing that you're doing something that adds value.
It's not the same for everybody, right? Having got to the core of the individual, whether that person is driven by money. That is what they're driven by, whether they're driven by power, whether they're driven by actually helping others. You can find, and we're back to values again, but you can find in the core of people after a while, and which they will recognize in themselves, is what is it that really gets me up in the morning? What is it I really want to do? What are you here for? I remember asking this. It's a pretty shocking question to ask people. It's like, so what are you here for? And they go, what, in this cafe? No. Why are you here? What are you here for? What are you here to do? And that mostly gets people to stop and really think.
Indeed. No, I actually recently was reflecting on this specific question, and I was thinking of my personal mission statement. I'm not happy with how it sounds, but it is what I want. Like I keep asking myself, what is one thing that I want to be happy about, that I had this chance at life, I lived the life, and how can I make my life worth living in a way? And for me, it came down to helping individuals or helping people achieve personal fulfillment, as well as do something good for others.
What it is, and that's what you have to find in everybody, because making a lot of people are in companies, banks, whatever, they're making lots of money. That's great, don't get me wrong, that's fine. However, a lot of people are also making money for people above them, right? They're working every day, every damn day, from dawn to dusk, to make someone above them richer. And that's often the case where they think, hang on a minute, what is this really what I want to be doing with my life? To make this guy with the Porsche and the 4 holidays.
At least make yourself rich, right? Oh, Keith, this has been such a very entertaining, insightful conversation, and I could go on and on, but we do have to wrap up. But before we do, there's one other question that is left for you by my previous guest. They left this question without knowing who they're leaving it for. The question reads, how do you see the future of your industry, and what are you doing to stay ahead?
So what have we got? Have we got another hour?
No, 30 seconds.
Listen, this is where it's going to go. This is where it's going to go. Artificial intelligence is incredible. It's phenomenal. Artificial general intelligence will have human level intelligence within the next 3 years, probably earlier. We're already seeing incredible advancements. What does that mean? That means that in terms of jobs that will be available, a lot of the jobs that we know today, August 2024, won't exist August 2025. A lot of back office jobs, a lot of admin type jobs, they're just going to go. Fact. A lot of new jobs will be created. We don't know what they are yet properly, but they will be. So the thing about the time we're in now, it's just, for me, and you can hear my passion, for me, I believe it's exciting time because I don't think we've lived through anything like this. It's like the invention of electricity or the invention of the internet, probably more like the invention of electricity. So fundamental, so changing in every area. Link artificial intelligence to robotics, and I'm telling you, it's going to be absolutely amazing. I was just watching something, just posted something today where someone was having a conversation like we're having a conversation now, but the person they were having the conversation was totally AI generated and was answering all their questions and interacting with them in much the way you and I are. That's coming.
Mm. And what is then your message as a coach, someone who helps individuals decide on their professional and career path? What is one piece of advice that you can give to people who want to pursue professional careers, who want to start their businesses? What is one thing that they can do to prepare or to be up to date, up to speed with these changes?
So very simple. Firstly, know yourself. I mean, really know yourself. Okay, your values, your personality, your skills, your attributes, your likes, your dislikes. So know yourself. 2, know what you want. Really get to know what it is you want to be doing. Don't look back when you're 80 thinking, I wish I'd done something else. Know what it is you want to do, right? And 3, know how to get there. Take someone to help you, take someone to support you, take more than one person, but get there with the aid of somebody.
Indeed. Oh my God. This has been such an insightful conversation and wide-ranging conversation. Thank you so much, Keith, for taking your time. Yeah. For me, the key takeaways from this conversation is really knowing yourself, your values, because they can really help you understand who you are, what you want, and eventually how to get there. And it is okay to ask for help. And it is essential to have a supporting network and maybe a coach, maybe a mentor, maybe a friend or a family member, hopefully a huge community of people who are cheering you on. And it is indeed challenging and very scary to embark on your journey as an entrepreneur, to build something ground up. So having that little bit of confidence is also maybe a good way to embark on the journey. Thank you, Keith, for being on the Inside Story podcast.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.